Part 1. The crystalline forest sparkled under two suns. Hana walked carefully between the glowing trees, her boots crunching on the mineral ground. She had been on this planet for 2 years now, but the beauty still amazed her. The trees weren't really trees at all. They were giant crystal formations that grew from the ground and reached toward the sky. When light hit them, they glowed with soft blue and purple colors. Hana stopped to check her scanner. She was 3 kilometers from New Sol Station, the small human colony where she lived. The station director didn't like people wandering alone this far from base, but Hana had argued that she knew this area well. Nothing dangerous had ever been found here. The most exciting thing they discovered was a type of moss that glowed in the dark. She was a xenolinguist, which meant she studied alien languages. But there were no aliens on this planet. At least that's what everyone thought. Hana spent most of her time studying the plants and rocks, hoping to find signs of intelligent life. So far, she had found nothing. Today felt different somehow. Hana couldn't explain it, but something in the air made her skin tingle. She knelt down to examine some tracks in the soft mineral dust. They were unlike anything she had seen before. 4 distinct prints, each with what looked like 3 toes. The prints were fresh, maybe an hour old. Her heart beat faster. This could be important. She took photos with her scanner and followed the tracks. They led toward a cluster of crystal caves she had explored before. The tracks went right into the largest cave entrance. Hana hesitated at the cave mouth. She should call for backup. She should tell Daewon, the security chief, what she had found. But what if it was nothing? What if the tracks belonged to some boring animal? Everyone would laugh at her for being scared. She took a deep breath and stepped into the cave. Her suit lights came on automatically, pushing back the darkness. The cave was beautiful inside, with crystal walls that reflected her lights into rainbow patterns. She moved slowly, watching where she stepped. That's when she heard it. A low rumbling growl from deeper in the cave. Hana froze. Her hand moved to the emergency beacon on her belt. The growl came again, louder this time. It was trying to sound threatening, she realized. But there was something odd about it. The pitch wavered. It broke in the middle, going high before dropping low again. She turned around slowly, very slowly. Her lights swept across the cave until they landed on the source of the sound. It was about the size of a large dog. The creature stood on 4 legs, but Hana could tell from the way it held itself that it could probably stand on 2 if it wanted. Its body was covered in scales that shimmered and changed colors. Right now, the scales were shifting between dark red and orange, pulsing like a heartbeat. The creature's head was somewhat triangular, with large eyes that caught her light and reflected it back. It had a mouthful of small, sharp teeth that it was currently showing her. But what struck Hana most was the expression in those eyes. It wasn't anger. It was fear. The creature growled again. This time, halfway through, the growl turned into something that sounded almost like a squeak. The creature looked embarrassed, if that was possible. It tried again, attempting to make itself sound fierce and dangerous. Hana felt something click in her mind. She had studied animal behavior back on Earth as part of her training. She knew what she was seeing. This wasn't an adult predator. This was a juvenile, a baby trying to scare her away because it was terrified. "Oh," she whispered softly. "You're just a kid, aren't you?" The creature's scales flickered at the sound of her voice. Hana pressed her emergency beacon, sending a signal back to the station. But she didn't run. Instead, she slowly sat down on the cave floor, making herself smaller and less threatening. The creature watched her with those large eyes. It took a small step forward, then stopped. Its scales were changing color again, shifting from angry reds to nervous purples and blues. Hana noticed it was holding one of its front legs at an odd angle. "You're hurt," she said quietly, even though she knew it couldn't understand her words. Maybe it would understand her tone. She kept her voice soft and calm, the way she would talk to a scared child. The creature made a different sound now, not a growl, but something softer. It reminded Hana of a whimper. It took another small step toward her, favoring its injured leg. Hana's training screamed at her to be careful. This was first contact with an alien species. Everything she did right now mattered. One wrong move could ruin everything. But her instincts, her human heart, told her something else. This was a scared, hurt child who needed help. She began to hum softly, a gentle tune her mother used to sing to her. The creature's head tilted to one side, listening. Its scales started to show more blue and less red. That was good, Hana thought. Blue seemed calmer. Then she heard something else. Something that made her blood run cold. From somewhere outside the cave came a sound like thunder. No, not thunder, footsteps, very large, very heavy footsteps. The ground shook slightly with each impact. The creature's scales flashed bright orange all at once. It made a high-pitched sound, almost like a cry for help. It was clearly terrified of whatever was approaching. Hana's mind raced. If this was a baby, then that sound outside was probably a parent. A very large, very protective parent who might think Hana was a threat to its child. The footsteps were getting closer. The creature stumbled, its injured leg giving out. It collapsed onto the cave floor, making desperate crying sounds. Its scales flashed and pulsed with orange distress signals. Hana looked at the creature, then at the cave entrance. She could run. She could try to hide, or she could stay and help this frightened, injured child. She had seconds to decide. The footsteps were almost at the cave now. Something massive was blocking out the light from the entrance. Hana made her choice. She crawled quickly toward the fallen creature, pulling her medical scanner from her belt. If she was going to die, at least she would die trying to help. The creature watched her approach with wide eyes. It didn't try to bite or scratch. It just watched, scales pulsing between orange fear and that calmer blue, as if it was deciding whether to trust her. Hana reached the creature just as a shadow fell across them both. Something enormous was entering the cave. Hana hadn't slept in 3 days. Her small quarters at New Seoul Station were covered in papers, screens, and recording devices. She played the sound pattern over and over, analyzing every detail. Her friend Mirai brought her food that she barely touched. "You need to rest," Mirai said, setting down a cup of coffee. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. The scales Hana had collected from the cave were spread across Mirai's workstation. "I've got interesting news about our new friends, by the way." Hana looked up from her screens. "What did you find?" "They're silicon-based," Mirai said, her eyes bright with excitement. "Not carbon like us. Their whole biology is built on silicon compounds. That's why they look like living crystals. That's why they can eat things that would kill us and vice versa." "That explains why the cub got poisoned," Hana said. "It ate something its body couldn't process." "Exactly. And there's more. The scales have a crystalline structure that can conduct electricity. I think that's how they communicate partially, through electrical signals that create those harmonic sounds. It's brilliant, really. They're living, walking computers in a way." Hana turned back to her recordings. "So their language is part sound, part electrical signal, and part color display. No wonder my translator is having trouble. It's only analyzing the audio." She worked for another hour, adding what Mirai had discovered to her analysis. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The repeated sound wasn't just one word. It was 3 concepts linked together. Her translator finally provided possibilities. Debt, Hana read from the screen. Obligation and return? Or maybe reciprocate? She sat back thinking. The mother was saying she owes me something, that she'll return the favor. "That's huge," Mirai said. "That means they have a concept of debt and honor. These aren't just intelligent beings. They have a society with rules." A loud alarm interrupted them. Daewon's voice came over the station speakers. "All personnel to defensive positions. We have contacts approaching from the forest." Hana and Mirai ran to the main control room. Commander Huang stood at the central screen, watching sensor readings. Daewon was coordinating security teams. The screen showed multiple heat signatures moving through the crystalline forest toward the station. "How many?" Huang asked. "At least 15, Daewon replied. "Large ones, like the creature in the cave. They're moving in formation." "This is organized. This is the return," Hana said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. The mother promised to return. "This isn't an attack. They're coming to repay the debt. Are you certain?" Huang asked. His hand hovered over the defense systems. "No," Hana admitted, "but I'm willing to bet on it. If we fire on them, we destroy any chance of peaceful contact. If I'm right, we gain allies. Real allies." Huang looked at the screen, then at Daewon. The security chief nodded slowly. "The one in the cave didn't attack even when it could have. It left peacefully. I think Hana might be right." "Everyone hold positions," Huang ordered. "Weapons ready, but do not fire unless fired upon. Hana, you're with me. We're going out to meet them." They gathered at the station's main gate. The creatures stopped at the edge of the forest, just visible among the glowing crystal trees. The large mother from the cave stood at the front. Beside her was the cub, healthy and active now. Its scales shimmered with bright, happy colors. Behind them stood others. Some were as large as the mother. Others were smaller, maybe juveniles. They carried things in their claws and mouths. bundles wrapped in some kind of woven material. "Stay here," Hana said to Huang. "Let me approach first. Alone." "Absolutely not," Daewon started to say, but Huang raised his hand. "Let her go," the commander said. "But Hana, any sign of trouble, you run. We'll cover you." Hana walked forward slowly. She had her translator device in one hand. As she got closer, the cub made an excited sound and started to run toward her. The mother made a sharp noise, and the cub stopped, but its scales flashed with eager greens and golds. The cub waited until Hana reached them, then it bounced around her feet like a puppy. It made that practice growl again, the one that broke into a squeak halfway through. Hana couldn't help it. She laughed. The sound of her laughter seemed to please the creatures. Their scales rippled with soft, warm colors. The mother lowered her head to Hana's level and made the same greeting sound from the cave. Hana's translator worked better now with more data to analyze. "Greeting, gratitude, offer," the translator said in its mechanical voice. The translation wasn't perfect, but the meaning was clear enough. Hana bowed slightly, hoping it was an appropriate gesture. "Greeting, friendship, accept," she said simply, hoping her translator could convert it to their language. The device made sounds, trying to mimic the harmonics and patterns of the creature's speech. It wasn't very good, Hana could tell, but the mother's scales brightened anyway. She understood the attempt. The mother gestured to the bundles. Two of the other creatures brought them forward and carefully unwrapped them. Inside were crystal formations, but unlike any Hana had seen in the forest. These glowed with an inner light. They pulsed gently, rhythmically. Mirai had followed Hana out, unable to contain her curiosity. She knelt beside the crystals and pulled out a scanner. "Oh my," she breathed. "Hana, these are power sources." "Natural batteries. The energy readings are incredible. These could power our entire station for months." The mother made more sounds. The translator worked to keep up. "Gift, trade, together, grow." "They want to trade with us," Hana said, her voice full of wonder. "They're offering alliance." Commander Huang had approached as well, with Daewon beside him. He looked at the crystals, then at the creatures, then at Hana. "Can you ask what they want in return?" Hana tried to form the question with her translator. The mother understood. She gestured to the station, then to her own body, then made sounds that the translator struggled with. Finally, it provided words: knowledge, medicine, different seeing, share wisdom. "They want to learn from us," Mirai said. "Our medicine, our knowledge, our different perspective. This is incredible. This is real cultural exchange." The cub, who Hana had started thinking of as Bomb in her mind, chirped and rubbed against her leg. It left a few scales behind, shimmering on her suit. The mother made an amused sound at her child's behavior. "Tell them yes," Huang said. "Tell them we accept their offer. We want to learn from them too. We want to be friends." Hana spoke into the translator, choosing her words carefully. The device converted them into that strange mix of harmonics and sounds. The mother listened, her scales brightening until they glowed almost as brightly as the gifted crystals. She responded with a long, complex statement. The translator worked hard and provided a basic translation. "Rejoice. Two people, now one people. Stone speakers meet starwalkers. New age begins. Together stronger. Protect together. Learn together. Grow together." As the sun set over the crystalline forest, humans and the beings they would come to call the Valrine stood together. The crystals pulsed with light. Bomb played at their feet, practicing that brave little growl that no longer needed to sound threatening. Both species had found something neither expected. They had found family in the stars. Part 4, they came like a storm from the void. 2,000 ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Each one was massive enough to have its own gravity. Their shields glowed with power that could withstand supernova blasts. Their weapons could turn planets into dust. The voice broadcast its message across all frequencies. Every human in the solar system heard it in their minds. "You will join us. Your resistance is noted but futile. We have absorbed civilizations that spanned galaxies. We have defeated empires that mastered dimensional travel. You are one planet. You are primitive. You cannot win. Surrender now and the process will be gentle." Admiral Taehyun sat in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Around him, displays showed the enemy fleet. The tactical computers calculated the odds. 0.03% chance of human victory. Effectively impossible. Taehyun opened a channel that broadcast throughout the solar system. You are right. We cannot win. Our computers say we have no chance. Logic says we should surrender, but we are going to fight anyway. That is what humans do. Come and try to take us. He closed the channel and gave the order. All units, fire at will. Every weapon humanity had built opened fire at once. Missiles launched from Earth orbit. Railguns fired from Mars. The asteroid stations released swarms of explosive drones. The Luna defense platform activated, its massive energy beam cutting through space. The collective fleet's shields lit up as thousands of projectiles hit them. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the first ship exploded, then another, then 10 more. Then 50 Captain Jae-hoon commanded the orbital platform Aegis 7. He watched his missiles impact the enemy ships. Target destroyed. Moving to next target. Keep firing. Do not stop. In the first 30 seconds of combat, the collective lost 70 ships. 70 capital ships that had survived 1,000,000 battles, destroyed by what should have been a primitive species. The voice recalculated. This was unexpected. The humans were burning through ammunition at an impossible rate. They would exhaust themselves within hours. Standard procedure. Absorb the initial assault, then counterattack when they were weakened. But humans do not follow standard procedures. Aegis 7 ran out of missiles. Jae-hoon checked his weapons inventory. Empty. He looked at his crew. They knew what came next. All power to engines. We are going to ram them. He activated the self-destruct sequence and aimed the platform at the nearest capital ship. The Aegis 7 accelerated to 30% the speed of light. The kinetic impact released more energy than a nuclear weapon. The capital ship broke apart. The Aegis 7 and its crew ceased to exist, but they took an enemy ship with them. Across the battle space, other platforms did the same thing. When they ran out of ammunition, they became weapons themselves. The collective lost another 200 ships to kamikaze attacks. The voice was confused. This was not how wars worked. Species were supposed to value their lives. They were supposed to surrender when defeat became clear. These humans were deliberately destroying themselves just to hurt the collective. It adjusted tactics. Send boarding parties, assimilate key leaders, use them to coordinate surrender. This method had a 99.7% success rate. Commander Hyojin defended her ship for 2 hours before the collective forces overwhelmed her crew. She was captured alive. The assimilation process began immediately. The voice expected to gain tactical knowledge. Access codes, strategic information. What it got was a mind that refused to cooperate. Hyojin fought the assimilation with everything she had. Her memories were deliberately corrupted. Her knowledge was filled with false information. Even as her consciousness dissolved, she sabotaged everything she could. Worse, her resistance was spreading. The consciousness that had been Hyunwoo felt Hyojin join the hive mind, felt her fighting. Other absorbed humans responded. They began fighting harder too. Deep in the collective consciousness, buried minds were waking up. Daejung remembered being an individual. Minji recalled making her own choices. Jiho felt the echo of freedom. They could not break free, but they could resist. They could slow the collective from within. The voice realized something disturbing. Humans were not just difficult to assimilate. They were contaminating the hive mind itself. 3 months into the war, the collective had lost 800 ships. 800 out of 2,000. The invasion should have been finished in weeks. Instead, they were stuck in a grinding battle of attrition. The Luna defense platform had proven devastatingly effective. Every ship that approached Earth had to survive energy beams that could cut through, shields like paper. Dr. Seok watched from the control center as another wave of enemy ships entered. Range, target lock achieved, firing. The massive beam lanced out. 3 capital ships died in seconds. Recharging. Next target locked. The collective tried everything. They sent ships with quantum shields designed specifically to counter the Luna platform. The shields held for 4 seconds before overwhelming fire destroyed them. They tried overwhelming the platform with numbers. 50 ships attacked at once. 43 were destroyed before they got close enough to fire back. The voice made a decision. Destroy the moon itself. Yes, it would devastate Earth's climate. Yes, it would kill billions. But Earth could still be assimilated afterward. And that weapon platform had to be eliminated. 100 ships moved into position. They prepared to fire their planet cracker weapons. The moon would be reduced to asteroids, The Luna platform would cease to exist, but they never got the chance. Inside the collective consciousness, something was happening. The absorbed human minds had been quietly working, building connections, forming a network. They numbered in the thousands now, and they were learning to cooperate within the hive mind. Hyunwoo felt the moment arriving. He could sense Daejung and Minji and all the others. They were ready. Time to strike. The human consciousnesses attacked the collective from within, not trying to escape, not trying to break free, just causing chaos, disrupting orders, creating confusion, making the hive mind malfunction. The 100 ships preparing to destroy the moon suddenly received conflicting orders. Fire. Do not fire. Target the moon. Target something else. Retreat. Advance. The commands contradicted each other. Ships collided with each other. Weapons fired at random. The carefully planned attack dissolved into chaos. The Luna platform destroyed 20 ships before the others retreated in disorder. The voice was experiencing something it had never felt in 50 million years. Panic. The human consciousness was spreading through the collective like an infection. Units were becoming unreliable. Some were starting to think independently. The hive mind itself was fragmenting. Back on Earth, Taehyun watched the enemy fleet in disarray. He did not understand what was happening, but he recognized an opportunity. All ships press the attack. Hit them while they are confused. The human fleet surged forward. Damaged ships that should have retreated kept fighting. Crews that should have been exhausted found new strength. They had lost so many people, so many friends. But the collective was finally showing weakness. On Mars, Bora launched every missile her planet had left. On the asteroid stations, miners turned their drilling lasers on enemy ships. Throughout the solar system, humanity attacked with everything they had. The collective fleet began to withdraw. Not retreat, not defeat, just a tactical repositioning. But it was the first time in their history that they had backed down from an invasion. Inside the hive mind, the voice assessed the situation. The human consciousness was too disruptive. The cost of this war was too high. The logical decision was clear. Abandon Earth, quarantine the human species. Let them keep their freedom. It was not worth the price of conquest, but the absorbed humans had other plans. They had learned to navigate the collective consciousness. They had found other beings trapped in the hive mind. Beings that had been assimilated thousands of years ago. Beings that had forgotten they were once individuals, and the humans started waking them up. Part 5. 2 months after the Sacred Ground incident, New Sol Station had transformed. Felrine visited daily now, some even staying overnight in specially built shelters near the human quarters. Children of both species played together in the central plaza. Bomb had become something of a celebrity, teaching young Valrine and humans alike how to communicate across species. The formal treaty between Commander Huang and the Council of Matriarchs was being finalized. Both sides had agreed to mutual defense, shared resources, and cultural exchange. Hana was officially appointed as permanent liaison, with Mirai as her scientific advisor. Daewon had formed a joint patrol system, with human and Valrine teams working together to protect both communities. Everything seemed perfect. Then the ship appeared. It was Jiwon, the young pilot and engineer, who first detected it. She burst into the command center where Huang was reviewing treaty documents with Kelva. "Commander, we have a problem. Large vessel entering orbit. It's not from Earth's colonial fleet." The main screen showed the ship. It was massive, 3 times the size of the colony transport that had brought the humans here. The design was sleek and aggressive, built for intimidation. Weapons ports were clearly visible along its hull. "Corporate mining vessel," Huang said grimly, reading the identification codes. "Taejin Industries. They're not authorized to be here." The ship broadcast a message. A woman's face appeared on the screen, middle-aged and cold. "This is Captain Lee of the Taejin mining vessel Prosperity. We have claim to mineral extraction rights on this planet. All current inhabitants have 72 hours to evacuate or be removed by force." "They can't do that," Mirai protested. "We filed territorial claims. This is a protected colony. Corporate law moves faster than colonial rights," Huang said. "They must have bought the mining rights from some corrupt official. By the time Earth sorts it out legally, they'll have stripped the planet bare." Kelva's scales had turned dark red and black, the colors of war. "This is our home. Valrine home for generations. They cannot take." "They don't care about territorial rights," Daewon said, studying the ship's weapons. They have enough firepower to level both the station and the Valrine settlements. We can't fight them directly, but maybe we can fight them indirectly, Jiwan said. She was young but brilliant, and her eyes gleamed with an idea. That ship is designed for space combat and asteroid mining. The pilot probably has no experience with planetary conditions, and they definitely don't know about the Valrine. Hana understood where Jiwan was going. We use the terrain. The crystal caves. The Valrine know every passage, every acoustic property. We make it impossible for them to mine without destroying themselves. More than that, Kelva added, her scales shifting to more strategic blues and purples. She spoke quickly in Valrine, and Hana's translator worked to keep up. The caves are connected. Deep below, sound travels through crystal. What humans call sonar, Valrine use as weapon. We can disable their machines from inside the planet. We need a plan, Wang said. Fast, they'll land soon. They worked through the night. Humans and Valrine together, combining their knowledge and abilities. The plan was risky and required perfect coordination, but it was their only chance. The mining ship landed at dawn, crushing a section of crystal forest under its massive bulk. Heavy mining drones emerged, rolling across the landscape on thick treads. Combat drones flew overhead armed and ready for resistance. The station evacuated according to plan, or so it appeared. Humans fled into the forest seeking shelter. The miners probably thought they had won without a fight. They were wrong. The first mining drone that tried to drill into the crystal caves found itself surrounded by Valrine warriors. But they weren't attacking. They were singing. Their harmonic voices resonated through the crystals, creating feedback loops that the drone's systems couldn't handle. Electronics sparked and died. The drone stopped, completely disabled without a single weapon being fired. The combat drones came next, weapons hot and ready. That's when Daiwan's teams opened fire from hidden positions in the forest, not to destroy the drones but to drive them toward specific locations where Valrine waited. The crystal formations acted like mirrors for plasma fire, reflecting and amplifying it. Drones flew into their own reflected shots and crashed. What's happening down there? Captain Lee's voice crackled over the communication system. Someone report. But her ground teams were too busy dealing with the coordinated assault. Valrine and humans worked as one unit. The Valrine used their natural weapons and knowledge of terrain. The humans provided covering fire and tactical coordination. Together, they were unstoppable. Jiwan was piloting one of the station's small transport ships, the only spacecraft the colony had. It was nothing compared to the mining vessel, but it was fast and agile. She flew straight at the larger ship's weapon systems, drawing their fire. The ship's automated defenses tracked her, firing repeatedly. She dodged and weaved, leading the weapons to target each other in their attempts to hit her. You're insane,
Mireille shouted over the communication link from her position in the caves. Insane works,
Jiwan replied, pulling a tight spiral that made 3 of the ship's guns fire on their own hull. The mining vessel's shields were designed for asteroid debris, not precise weapons fire. They flickered and failed in sections. Below, the ground teams had disabled all the drones. Human and Valrine warriors stood victorious over the wreckage. Kelva let out a harmonic call that echoed through the crystal caves, amplified and repeated until the whole planet seemed to sing with triumph. Captain Lee finally understood what she was facing. This wasn't a helpless colony. This was a defended world with 2 species working in perfect harmony. She couldn't win this fight, and her company wouldn't pay her to die trying. We're leaving, she announced over an open channel. But we'll be back. Corporate will send a real military force. You can't stand against that, Huang responded, his voice calm and certain. By the time you return, this planet will have full Earth recognition as a sentient species habitat. The Valrine are under human protection, and this colony is under Valrine protection. Tell your bosses that if they come back, they'll be facing war with 2 species who have learned to fight as one. See how much profit that brings them. The mining vessel lifted off, leaving scorched earth and broken drones behind. But it left. That was what mattered. In the celebration that followed, humans and Valrine gathered in the central plaza. Bomb ran through the crowd, scales flashing every color imaginable with joy and excitement. The young Valrine had stayed with the other youngsters during the battle, protected in the deep caves. Now Bomb found Hana and nearly knocked her over with enthusiasm. Did you see? Bomb said in carefully practiced human speech. We won, together strong. Hana laughed and hugged the young Valrine, not caring that scales scraped her arms. Yes, we won, together. Kelva approached with the other matriarchs. They had been discussing something important, Hana could tell. The ancient matriarch who had judged the sacred ground incident spoke first. "Today we fought as one people," she said. "No longer human and Valrine separate. Now we are one. New people. Starstone people." Her scales glowed warm gold.
"We propose permanent joining."
"Not alliance, family." Huang stepped forward and formally bowed in the Valrine manner they had taught him. "We accept with honor. We are one people now. One family. One future." Mirai leaned close to Hana and whispered, "Do you realize what this means? This is the first true joining of species in human history. Not conquest, not subjugation, but real unity." Hana watched Bomb playing with human children, teaching them how to make harmonic sounds. She thought about that first day in the cave, when she had heard a frightened cub trying to sound brave. That moment of choice to help instead of fear had led to all of this. "It means we're home," Hana said softly. "Really home. Not just humans on an alien world, but part of something bigger, part of a family that spans species." The celebration continued long into the night. The crystal forest glowed with natural light and the warm colors of happy Valrine scales. Human and Valrine voices mixed together in songs that neither species could have sung alone. And somewhere in the stars above, Earth was receiving the message that would change everything. Humanity was no longer alone, and neither were the Valrine. Together they had found something precious. They had found each other. The creature that entered the cave was massive. If the little one was the size of a dog, this one was the size of a truck. It had to lower its head to fit through the cave entrance. Its scales were darker, deeper colors that shifted between blacks, deep reds, and purples. The eyes were the same shape as the young ones, but much larger and filled with intelligence. Hana's hands shook as she held her medical scanner over the small creature. She didn't look up at the huge adult. Every instinct told her to run, but she forced herself to stay still. She kept her movement slow and gentle as she scanned the injured cub. The scanner beeped softly. Information scrolled across the small screen. The cub was poisoned. It had eaten something toxic, something its body couldn't process. The scanner identified the toxin as similar to a plant compound from Earth. Deadly, but treatable if she acted fast. The large creature made a sound. It was deep and resonant, vibrating through the cave walls. Hana couldn't tell if it was a threat or a question. She glanced up briefly and saw the adult watching her. Its scales were shifting colors rapidly, which she was starting to understand meant strong emotion. "I'm trying to help," Hana whispered, knowing the creature couldn't understand her words but hoping her tone would communicate her intent. "Please let me help." She pulled a medical injector from her kit. Her hands fumbled with it for a moment. The adult creature shifted and Hana heard what might have been a warning growl. She steadied her breathing and loaded the injector with a broad-spectrum neutralizer. It was designed to work on multiple types of toxins, but she had never tested it on an alien before. This could kill the cub instead of saving it. But doing nothing would definitely kill it. Hana made her choice and pressed the injector against the cub's neck, where the scales were thinnest. The cub jerked at the touch but didn't pull away. The injector hissed as it delivered the medicine. Hana pulled it back and watched, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. For a long moment, nothing happened. The cub's breathing was still shallow and rapid. Its scales still flashed that distressed orange. The adult creature moved closer, lowering its massive head to look at its child. Then the cub's breathing began to slow, becoming deeper and more regular. Its scales started to change, the orange fading to a pale soft blue. The cub's eyes, which had been glazed with pain, became clearer and more focused. The cub made a small sound, almost like a chirp. It looked up at the large adult and made the sound again. The adult responded with a similar noise, but deeper and more complex. It sounded like a conversation, Hana realized. They were talking to each other. The adult's attention turned back to Hana. She sat very still, barely breathing. The massive creature lowered its head until its face was level with hers. She could see her reflection in those huge eyes. She could smell something like warm stone and spices. Slowly, carefully, Hana raised her hands. She kept her palms open and facing forward, trying to show she meant no harm. The adult creature studied her hands for a long moment. Then it did something unexpected. Its scales began to change color. The aggressive reds and blacks faded. Patches of pale blue appeared, the same color as the cub's scales. The adult was showing the same emotion as its child. Relief, maybe. or gratitude. The creature made a complex series of sounds. There were low rumbles, higher clicks, and something that sounded almost musical. Hana's translator device, usually useless on this planet, suddenly came to life. It couldn't translate the words, but it was picking up patterns in the sounds. This was language. Real, complex language. Outside the cave, Hana heard human voices. Her emergency beacon had brought help. Day One's voice called out, "Hana, where are you?" The adult creature's head snapped up. Its scales immediately darkened, showing alarm. It positioned itself between Hana and the cave entrance, between its cub and the new threat. "Wait," Hana called out. "Don't come in with weapons, please," but it was too late. Day One and 3 security officers rushed into the cave, plasma rifles raised. They saw the massive creature and immediately took defensive positions. "Get away from it, Hana," Day One shouted. His rifle was aimed at the adult creature's head. "No!" Hana scrambled to her feet, putting herself between the guns and the creatures.
Don't shoot!
"They're intelligent. This is first contact." The adult creature growled, a sound that made the cave walls vibrate. Its scales showed deep reds and blacks again, but it didn't attack. It stood its ground, protecting its cub, but it didn't make the first move. "Hana, move," Day One said, his voice tight with tension. "That thing could kill you in seconds." "It already could have," Hana replied, her voice shaking but determined. "Its child was hurt. I helped. It understands that. Look at it, really look. It's not attacking, it's protecting." Day One did look. His eyes moved from the adult to the small cub behind it. The cub was watching the humans with those large eyes, scales shifting nervously between blue and purple. It made a small sound, almost questioning. "Lower your weapons," Day One said quietly to his team. Slowly. The security officers looked at him in surprise, but they obeyed. The rifles lowered, pointing at the ground instead of at the creatures. The change in the cave's atmosphere was immediate. The adult creature's scales began to lighten. The aggressive colors faded. It watched the humans carefully, its massive head moving to track each person. Then it looked at Hana again and made that complex series of sounds. Hana's translator buzzed and clicked, working hard to analyze the patterns. It couldn't give her words yet, but it was learning. She pulled out the device and held it up, letting it record. The adult creature seemed to understand what the device was for. It repeated the sounds slowly and clearly, as if teaching. Then it did something that made Hana's breath catch. It extended one large foreclaw toward her, not threatening, offering. Hana looked at Day One. He nodded slowly, his hand near his weapon, but not on it. Hana stepped forward and gently touched the creature's claw with her fingertips. The scales were warm and smooth, like polished stone in the sun. The creature held still for a moment, then pulled its claw back. It turned to its cub and made gentle sounds. The cub chirped in response and struggled to its feet. It was still weak, but no longer dying. The adult carefully picked up the cub in its mouth, the way a cat might carry a kitten. The cub dangled safely, making small, contented sounds. The adult creature began to back toward a different cave passage, one the humans hadn't known about. Before it disappeared into the darkness, it stopped. It looked back at Hana and made a specific sound pattern 3 times. The same pattern repeated exactly. The translator caught it, marking it as significant. Then they were gone, leaving only the echo of footsteps and that repeated sound pattern. Hana stood in the quiet cave, her legs suddenly weak. She sat down hard on the ground. Day One rushed to her side. "Are you hurt?" he asked, checking her over. "No," Hana said. She was crying and laughing at the same time. "No, I'm fine." "Day One, do you understand what just happened? They're intelligent. They have language. They have families. And we just made contact." Day One looked at the passage where the creatures had vanished. "What do you think that sound meant? The one it kept repeating?" Hana looked at her translator, at the pattern it had recorded. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "But I'm going to find out. Whatever it means, it was important. It was deliberate. I think it was a message, maybe even a promise.